You got a lot done.
Yeah, check out where we're at. Everything here, you just saw the fabrication of all this stuff. Just a lot of metal bending, hammering, etc. Where we're at now is to find out how mechanically it's going to function with this idea. So we're gonna lift it up, see
Hold on, there's an airplane.
what's going on. So a lot of comments, probably the most amount of comments ever, I think, on one topic. That being, how are you gonna get the tires off?
How are you going to get the tire off?
Well, we're gonna find out right now.
I would have commented
because
that
the design is going to have to allow that to happen, right? People were commenting, well, the fender touching the ground is gonna scrape. I want the fenders as low as possible to be functional, right? We're working at about that distance here. I just cut it at that. If we got to cut more to get the tires off, so be it. This is a swing axle, so the tires are going to bow in an arc from the center as we lift. So what do I look like, an automotive designer? That's actually the cover picture right there.
But I think that is a really, really good question.
Sure, you think about that stuff after the fact, though. Fashion first, always. I look like the Society of Automotive Engineers over here. So we built our car, and in fine fashion, we're going to figure out how to take the tire off second. We're going to trim as needed. But I was thinking ahead, a lot of times with these super low cars, you can't even get a jack under them. So that was part of my thinking here. Victor loves those tail draggers, and we can never get floor jacks under them. So with this design, you can access the shock mount and still lift it. So who knows what's gonna happen? This is live. See, I've got these little legs sticking down off of everything. So once the car is back down, I know what height I left it at. But we're still gonna have to check out if these tires are gonna come off or not.
So you honestly don't know if they're going to come off yet?
I honestly don't know if they're going to come off yet. We're gonna cut the car and whatever reason it takes to get them off. It really is interesting with all the vehicles Victor and I have done, especially how many times this comes up about the removing of the tires. The bubble top T-Bird, we're starting to cause a riot. How are you gonna get the tires off? There's a way. Typically, if you're taking a tire off, you got a flat tire, right?
Yes.
You got a flat tire, you can smush it around the bodywork. Is this thing gonna be driving around on a world tour? Nope. You get a flat tire, you call the flat bed. You take it back to the shop and do what we're about to do. So I'm gonna put this right under the center. What that's gonna do is allow us to fiddle around with these tires.
Oh, I see the camber, right?
Yeah, see how out of shape they are now?
Yeah, and so that's what will probably allow you to take the tire off?
Yes and no. So see, it's trapping it right now. It's hitting the fender.
Yeah.
But see, there's some body work here. See that? You got to cut that off. See how that, this is all development, right? At first, I was just laying all these pieces together, but that's clearly going to slice that tire. I'm going to get that out of the way first.
So is this episode all about changing a tire?
No. This episode is about how are we going to take the engine out as well? What are we going to do here? So check this out. We're going to get into this later. The whole rear of the car is just going to pop off. So we're going to have to build structure. Right now the car is welded shut. There's no way to take the engine out. We're thinking there's no way to take the tires off, but there may be. How are we going to get the tire off?
Yay!
Like that. So you can see that's the style I like. Right to the edge of disaster. If you're on the roadside, this could be a huge frustration, but you'll have a flat tire. You could probably smush it. You know, this point's going to get rounded out, and this will probably get rounded too. So the tire will just come through. And hey, like so many other things, are you going to put a tire of the same size back on? There's no need to do that. You put on a temporary, get to where you're going, maybe a little bit smaller. It's going to work out. It's going to be fine.
It's all good.
Everybody take a breath. Let's have a collective sigh of relief. All right, let's take the other tire off. I know.
Riveting.
This side doesn't have the running board put on yet, but it looks like this hooks in a lot more. That might cause us trouble. Let's lift this car up and see what we're gonna have to do.
That looks really good, by the way.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Dabble in building cars in my off time. No, I'm not on tour with the band.
And being a stellar husband.
Raking leaves, feeding dogs, watering cats, all the business. So this is a lot like that Starlux car, you know, the Type 3 with the Studebaker nose. In fact, these engine parts were from that. The problem we ran into with that car was we couldn't get the engine out, barely. I think Corey, who has it now, got it out, but we had to take this pulley off because the engine comes back maybe 2 inches or so. You can see with this design here, the exhaust is right up against this framework. So that's gonna get very hot. See that? Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna notch into this. We don't need this huge structure, so that'll allow that to be enough clearance. And then how will the engine come out? That's the big question. Obviously, you take the exhaust and the carbs off, but look at this oil filter here. It's very close to this sheet metal. The engine we put in here will probably have an external filter, so that won't even be on it. This block is seized. A lot of people are saying, what about the engine and the intakes being open? This engine is kaput. It needs a full rebuild. See, no spinning.
So you're just using this engine to mock up the build around it.
Between the stink eye vision and the final stage, there is the mock-up stage.
Got it.
It goes from stink eye to complete project.
I did not realize that was the theory, the framework you were using. Got it now.
When you get into the manual, the instructions manual clearly states step 1,
Stink eye.
2, 3,
Mock-up.
paint it.
So basically, you're gonna have to take the engine apart to get it out?
Yes. We may use this as a core. We may use the engine case and some of the internal parts, but I have a feeling it's rust stuck. See, it spins right there. Mm-hmm. It's hitting something inside. Maybe one of the, I don't know, something's rusted, stuck, I bet, because a lot of water came out when I drained the oil. So the fact that the crank spins, that's a good sign, but something in the long block in the outer ends. That's where our trouble is. So all this stuff is cool. I don't really like how these accessories don't match. You used to be able to buy kits with all these little cool designs, so if I can find one or the other, that's where it'll end up. But what you saw on the high speed, a lot of people asked about the cooling tins also. I didn't have them on for the majority of this project, so see what I did here? These are bigger intakes, so I cut off the stock flanges that keep the cooling air separated in the stock engine compartment. So it's just a representation of what's happening. We need to blow cool air down. You'll see this type of thing on a sand rail. Street car, not gonna cool optimally. But this is, at the root of it, this is custom car building. You put it together and take it apart like 50 times. It doesn't just go together. That's why there's no hardware in here. and it's not the nice engine we're scraping apart while we do that. So I had a cool thought about these tins. That's an aluminum shroud, but a friend online made me a steel, pieces for a steel shroud. So I think I'm gonna weld all this together. It's gonna be one piece that drops on, super clean. So that's that. I take off the manifolds, the exhaust, try to drop the engine. Okay, so with all that stuff out of the way, you can still see that this oil cooler is hitting something. We're not going to really even be able to get around that scenario. It's a bit of a balancing act. Okay, so what we got here is this is still very flexible. So I'm going to weasel this engine out. Bump it, dent it, whatever we got to do. Because I got to build some structure. What I'll be able to do, I got my height gauges. I'll be able to drop this back on the ground until these legs touch. And I got to build a structure to support all this. So getting all this out of the way is the preliminary procedure. And it's not every day you get to say preliminary procedure. Sounds important.
Ian's not an actor.
This mat is awesome. I want to thank whoever sent this once again because it does a great job clearing the floor as well. Now let's take a bet. How many people say the car is too high to take the engine out?
Comment below.
It's going to be close, I could tell you that. I have to drop them jack stands a couple notches. Yep. Get in there and make this happen. Jamie asked if I work on Volkswagens because I know so much about the engines. And I answered yes, but also it's because you can just grab the car like I did and move it a few inches if you need to. It's one of the cooler aspects.
VWs are awesome.
All right, cool. So we got that in there. It's my typical mock-up fashion. I think we only got one bolt in this thing. Let's see what happens. Looking through the back windows. Ooh, there's a bolt in there. So if you don't know about Volkswagens, the engine comes out of the back, out of the bottom. Looks like there's one stud missing from this, which is what I like. Because I'll show you one of the primary hang-ups of taking the engine out of these is these two studs on the bottom. If you could put a bolt in, that will really help with the clearance of getting this out. On another buggy, I've taken this out through the top, that yellow bug. I took it out the top with the engine hoist. So if you have to do that, that's cool too. We're gonna find out. We just, in the standard bug, you cannot take it out of the top. It doesn't work that way. So this is the engine that was in the car. I thought I had taken it out. Maybe I never unbolted it. It seems pretty crusty. It's possible I never took it out. Yeah, with a lot of Volkswagens, you'll be able to tell how long the engine's been in place because these bolts get all full of grease and oil and dirt and other.
It's so crazy. Volkswagen engines have a certain smell to them.
Yeah.
Like I can smell it right now that you're taking it apart.
It's the smell of love.
I guess.
Und German engineering. It's actually transaxle. It's a 90 weight gear oil.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's like a specific Volkswagen, so I never knew what that was.
Yeah, you'll smell that in the heat because oil will be dripping on the heater boxes a lot of times.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I never knew that, why they had a specific smell, and now sitting here with you taking it apart, I can smell it. I was today years old when I learned that.
Yeah, this guy's got a bunch of junk on the hardware. Yeah, we're gonna have to pull this transaxle out, give it a hot dip. It has got decades of gunk coming out of it. The swing axles are notorious for having their little, they're called boots. They're little CV style boots in here. They get dried out and they crack. And then the oil flows abundantly. And the wind blows from the front of the car to the back. So all of this stuff goes onto the engine. Then we get to wrestle this thing. I think I'm gonna take it out the top. Just because that way we won't even have to worry about that ever again. I might even be able to weld the body into position if we can pull it out the top. Ready to find out?
Yep.
Let's do it. Yeah, so we gotta grab this thing with the engine hoist now. I'm gonna take that distributor out too, because that's just gonna break. Looking for the 10 millimeter. Do you know that joke?
I've heard it before, but I don't
You'll hear it everywhere. So it's one of the more popular sizes. It's always the one you can't find. Here's a little trick. You get a lot of heat for this one. And you can't find your ratchet handle.
Hey man, you gotta make do.
Any port in a storm. Now you can say what you like, but I am a gambling man. I really feel like that stud is going to be able to lift the whole engine. Because I know I could pick up that Volkswagen engine with 2 hands. If that thing snaps off, we're going to have a party. Still got a bolt in there. See what we're running into with that oil filter? Mm-hmm. You know what my answer is to that?
Chop it off.
I could chop it off, or I could just take these bolts off. 13 millimeter, prepare for action. So the standard Bug engine doesn't have this on here. It's a very shallow flat plate, none of this design. So if we run that, we'll be okay. That bolt down there, though, she's gonna be a problem. So these are the things you think of after the fact. It's nice that these are bolts also. On the Bug, they're studs. Maybe in our way. You know what I mean by bolts or studs?
No.
So, see how I'm threading this out? Mm-hmm. With this threaded portion, this usually sticks out of the engine. So that's what I'm running into up here, you'll see. So the less stuff sticking out of the engine, the more room we got to work with. So the fact that these are bolts is helping. There should be oil coming out of here. Here it comes. Not a lot though, because I did drain it.
Oh, I see it.
Have to bring in some kitty litter and handle that. You see why you got to do a little half of one and half of the other? I didn't want to finalize this whole engine thing, the surround, because I didn't know how I was going to take the tires off or get the engine out. So
The truth comes out.
knowing this, it's pretty clear. We can take the engine out the top. So we can go ahead and finish the bodywork at this point. Yeah, not a lot of oil coming out of there. So that's the oil pump, those 2 gears. That's what pumps the oil around the engine.
Very cool. Is that a crowbar you got in your hand?
Whatever it takes. You know how I do. Yeah, it's just a little bit sticky for some reason coming out. There it is. The engine's on a big incline. I think there's just a little bit of everything. Causing some friction. So yeah, that's the problem right there. We have to get this closer to the engine hoist. You don't want to see the wrestling match. Look at that drooling mess. It's wonderful. So, I'm just gonna let this hang because I don't want it to fall off. Told you that one bolt would hold it. Ew. We're gonna have to get this thing a diaper. It's happening. So yeah, that's the story with this event. Engine comes out, albeit more difficult than I hoped, but I am, for simplicity's sake, I'm gonna weld this thing on. The engine in this is gonna come in and out, 2 or 3 more times. So I'm gonna build something to hold all that into shape. Yeah, now that we got this situated, I'm going to clean this up. When we come back, I'll drop this on the ground and start to build a structure. Now I can get inside, you see?
Love it. And the burning question has been answered.
Everyone, rest easy.